Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace. And that prayer you can easily understand now. Unreal to real. From name and form to Satchidananda. From darkness unto light. Darkness is this world we inhabit of not knowing our reality. And light is the pure consciousness that we are. Lead us from death to immortality. Death and immortality, how does it work? This life that we lead is a life of death because we think we are the body which is destined to die. In the Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. For the born, death is inevitable. In the Bible we find, who can add even a moment to his years? I forgot the exact word. That our life is as the flowers on the field, or the corn on the field. Here today and gone tomorrow. Even by the greatest of our efforts and prayers, who can add even a moment to our allotted lifespan? So death is inevitable for the born. This is a life of death because we think we are the body and the body is going to die. There's no there's no other way around it. But when we realize that we are the immortal consciousness, we were there before this body was there, we are here now, even when the body is there, even when the body will be gone, we are here. How does it work actually? It's like this. What Advaita Vedanta does is this. Follow this carefully, it's very interesting. There is a wave in the ocean. I'm traveling along. And at first the wave is very happy. It's a little wave, finds lots of other little waves around. And then grows and feels great that I'm going such a big and powerful wave, look at me move. And sometimes there are problems, there are bigger waves around. And there are smaller waves around. Bigger waves, jealousy, smaller waves, content. Similar waves, rivalry. And very soon, becoming smaller, the shore is coming up, death. Oh my God, what's going to happen to me? Luckily, it happens to meet a Vedantic wave on the way. And the Vedantic wave says, there is something called water. The wave says, so, this water neither dies, is neither born nor does it die. Really? Yes, that's there. And not only that, the water is the same everywhere. Not only that, the water is not subject to any change. Where is this water? That's the question. Show me the water. Wait, this is how it works. You are a wave. Yeah, that's what I am. Tell me quick, the shore is coming up. And the wave is an effect, the water is the cause. Just like wood is the cause, the material, and the table is an effect made out of that. Gold is the cause and ornament is the effect. So there is something called water which is your cause. You are the effect, but the cause is there. Okay, tell me more. And it is the same everywhere. Every wave, the cause is water. Okay. What kind of cause? Material cause, the stuff out of which it is made. Okay. And where is this water? Look at yourself and look at all other waves. What they are basically made of is water. There is water in your top, in your middle it's water, at your bottom it's water, and all your friends big and small are made of water. It's water through and through. Okay. And then, what you call a wave is a name and form. You are actually water. Okay, that also I can understand. And therefore, the water alone is real. The name of wave comes and goes. The name and form, they come and go. You see, what has happened is, he started off as being a wave. One among many. That's one problem. You're cut off from the world. You're a limited thing. Subject to envy, contempt, rivalry, problems. Second problem is subject to birth and death. The wave is subject to birth and death. Now an idea is introduced that there is something called water which is your cause. Cause and effect idea. The source of the wave is water. Stage 1. This is an attractive idea. You are still left as the wave. If you say to the wave, you are not a wave, you are water. What? What water? You can still be a wave. There's no problem. Be a wave. But think about the idea of water, the cause of your wave. The cause of the wave, the source of the wave, the essence of the wave, the reality of the wave. That's the stage 1. The idea of water is introduced. The idea of Brahman is introduced. Second, you look at yourself and you find through and through you are only water with a name and form. Look at yourself as a wave. What are you? Top water, middle water, bottom water. Through it, all of it is water with a name and form of a wave. Okay, second. That's the second stage. You find everything here is asti bhati priyam with name and form. Third, the name and form of the wave is an appearance. It's superimposed. The reality is water. The name and form here are superimposed by Maya. The unchanging reality everywhere is Brahman, asti bhati priyam. And finally, last stage, it's water alone. The name and form in themselves have no reality. Water is the only reality. And the wave still continues and then finally dies out and goes back into the ocean. But what has happened? Started out by thinking of itself as a wave, ended up by thinking of itself as water. As wave, subject to birth and death. As water, not subject to birth and death, immortal, as far as waves go. As wave, subject to limitation, set apart from all other waves. As water, one with everything. All waves are me. The water says, all waves, bubbles, foam, everything, the biggest one, the smallest one, is just me. As Brahman, as a human being, as a limited, living body, you're subject to birth and death. As asti bhati priya, you're not subject to birth and death. As a human being, we are cut off from all other human beings. Friends, enemies, rivals, flux. As asti bhati priyam, you are one, satchidananda, your existence, consciousness, bliss, one with everything. They are all me, just as this little one is me. You are no longer subject to birth and death. You started up by thinking as the wave, ended up by thinking, I am water. So immortal. Let the wave form go back into the ocean. The ocean is also water. I am that ocean. In the same way, you start off by thinking you are a human being, go through this process, at the end of the retreat, you end up thinking, I am asti bhati priya, satchidananda. That's what we have been going through. Yes.
Alright, yes, I'm going to try that. And I'm going to practice that, but I have to imagine in the beginning, don't I?
No.
How can
In Advaita Vedanta, you don't have to imagine it. If you imagine it, it's good. But that is not the purpose of Advaita Vedanta. That is one thing we have to understand. We have enough of imagination. Let's look at reality for a while. Does the wave have to imagine its water? If it imagines its water, it's good, but it will not solve its problems. It has to recognize itself as water. After all, the wave is really water, is it not? It was water earlier, before it became a wave. It is water now when it is a wave, and when the wave will melt back into the ocean, it will be water. In the same way, Can I see myself as existence and consciousness, which I am right now? How? Use these processes. Just think about it. The first verse, if you look at it. These are the two takeaways. Take the first verse, only the first verse. That's why I say the first verse is most important. If you understand the first verse, rest of it will slowly open up in time. If you don't understand the first verse, it will remain as imagination and theory. It will remain as something strange which I don't understand, or it will remain as something interesting and fascinating which I believe, but I don't understand. Which I like, but I don't get. Follow this carefully. The first verse itself. Object, imagination or real?
Real.
Real. Eyes are seeing the object. Imagination or real?
Real.
Real. Eyes are different from the object. Imagination or real?
Real.
You're not sure?
Sure.
Sure. My eyes are open, eyes are closed, I need glasses, I can see well, I cannot see well. All these things I know how? In my mind. So the mind is the seer and the eyes are become the known object, the seen object. Imagination or real? Do you have to believe it? Or is it a fact? It's a fact.
Yeah.
You don't need Vedanta to learn that.
Yeah.
It's common sense. Now the mind and thinking, happy, sad, desire, frustration, peace, restlessness, all these things happen in my mind all throughout my days. This is my life. Am I aware of it or not?
Yes.
You are, of course. Who else will be aware of your happiness and your misery? You are aware of your own happiness and misery, your knowledge and ignorance, everything. We are aware of our own minds. Just close your eyes and feel, yes, I am aware. Now that which is aware of your mind, it must be the witness of your mind, it must be something separate from your mind. Now at this point we will say, that's not something that I know. Right? At that point the doubt comes. What Vedanta tells us is, it's real, it's a fact. Just like this is separate from your eyes, it's exactly that much separate from you. See it, look, try looking, not how, try, right now. 2 plus 2 is 4, it's a thought. The thought is an object. Can you see that it's an object like this? This pen is a gross object, the thought is a subtle object. What is watching that thought? Who knows that thought? You'll never, the witness. You'll never catch hold of that witness. If you catch hold of it, it's not the witness. The witness is the one which is doing the catching hold of. So, that which can never be seen as an object, that which can never be known as an object, but which knows all objects, that is the witness. We chant to Sri Ramakrishna, Buddhescha Sakshi, the witness of Buddhi. Are these just Sanskrit words to mumble, or do they have meaning? They have meaning. They are telling you something. When is Sri Ramakrishna the Sakshi of your Buddhi? When? Now. Only after I realize God or go to Ramakrishna Loka? No, now. Right now. In whom? In everybody, in me also. That's what I am chanting. This book is telling us the meaning of that chant. Who or what is that Ramakrishna which is shining in my mind right now? Knowing the contents of my mind. These are the practices for it. No imagination. Fact. In Hindi, in Uttarakhand, Himalayas, they say, "Jyon ka tyon, thasat bharpur." As it is, this universe is filled with God. We have to imagine it. No, not imagine. Then one technique is what you consider to be real right now. Not imagination. What do you consider to be real? Table, chair, persons. Look at that. What is that? You will notice one thing, Vedanta will tell you, here is a table, a chair, a person. Vedanta will tell you, it's not just a table, a chair, a person. It's a table or a chair or a person in your experience. Is it not? It's not a person by itself. You are experiencing a person, seeing the person. So you are experiencing the person, that your consciousness is aware of a person. Next stage. The person is in your consciousness. That's a big step to take. Because our conviction is, there is a person independently and my consciousness comes in contact with that person. That's what I think. But Vedanta is trying to tell you, have you ever experienced a person apart from your consciousness? Never. Everything that you experience is in your consciousness. Forget consciousness, just mind. Take mind. Before the witness, more clear, more within our experience, our minds. You see, we never experience the world, and I am not speaking Vedanta here. I am saying something that cannot be denied by even the most materialist of scientists. We never experience a world directly. What we experience all the time is our minds. Think about it. Even most materialistic science, gross physiology, no Vedanta, no religion, no spirituality, just pure physiology. Light reflected from this object is entering into my eyes. What enters my eyes? Only light. Because my eyes are designed to take light only. My ears are designed to take sound only. If anything else enters my eyes, I'll have to go to the hospital. And that light is transmitted somehow through my optic nerves, and in the brain an image of this is created. And I experience that in my mind. The pen has not entered into my brain. I would die if that happened. It would require major surgery. What has entered into my brain is simply an impulse from outside, and that is recreated in my mind. In fact, the world that we experience is in our minds. Swami in Uttarakhand put it so nicely. He is saying, Dunya aapko dukh nahi deti. The world does not give you sorrow. It's your mind which gives you sorrow. Sorrow. Misery, sorrow. The world does not give you misery or sorrow. No, no. It's your mind which gives you misery or sorrow. It's your mind which makes you laugh and your mind makes you cry. Not the world. It's your mind which makes you a saint, your mind makes you a sinner. Not the world. The world is not responsible. Same life, same experiences, train your mind, you'll be a yogi and a saint. Untrained mind, same life, same experiences, devastated, drug addict, criminal, suicide. Mind made the difference, not the life, not the world outside. Our entire world of experience is in the mind. Forget Vedanta. Train the mind, you will lead a peaceful and happy life. It does not really matter what the world is. There are paraplegics stuck in their wheelchairs who contribute more to science and the progress of humanity. I am talking about Stephen Hawking.
Yes.
Than 6.5 billion other people.
Yes.
How? It's the mind. Train the mind. For that you do not need Vedanta. Yoga and bhakti are enough to train the mind and to set you free from suffering in the world. But Vedanta goes further. It says, I am not satisfied with the mind, even a trained mind, I am not satisfied. I want to know what's behind the mind, what's the truth. Yoga says, give me a peaceful mind. Bhakti says, give me love and joy, fulfillment in life. Vedanta says, give me the truth. What's real here? Pleasant truth, unpleasant truth, I don't care. I want to know what's going on here. So beyond the mind lies the witness of the mind. That's what we are speaking about here. Yes.
Alright, so would you say, and this is written in the Gospel, and Thakur has said it, that as we discussed that the path of devotion is easy. Is it permanent? And is Advaita Vedanta more superior because it gets to the truth in a different way? Or I'm just a little confused. And if I leave here without...
Yes. Remember, first of all, this retreat was about this text. Right? So the takeaway from this retreat will be our understanding of this text. But I realize as followers of Vedanta, we have a need to relate it to all our background information. We are devotees, we study the gospel, we are devoted to Thakur Mahaswamiji. So how do I relate this to that? That's the question which keeps coming up. And of course we must relate it. But before relating it, I'll tell you how I approach it. Whenever I study these things, I study them on their own terms. I don't bring my baggage into it. I'll do that later. I'll connect it later. But first let me understand what they are trying to tell me. If you understand what they're trying to tell you, you'll suddenly see a lot of things that we talk about. The prayers that we chant, the song that we sing in Arati, sing that so beautifully. What does it mean? Jyoti ra Jyoti, light of light. What is a light of lights? Is it an electric light or what kind of light of lights is it? What do you mean by light of lights? Is it a beautiful poetic phrase or does it have any meaning at all? Jyoti ra Jyoti. Ujala Redikandara, we sing, which shines in our heart. What kind of light shines in the heart? Cut it open, open heart surgery, you will not find any light. It's flesh and blood. What do you mean by the light shining in the heart? The heart there refers to Shankaracharya says, Buddhi Guha, the cave of the intellect. And the light shining there is the Sakshi, is the witness. Ujala Ridikandara. How does it shine in the Buddhi Guha? As the reflected consciousness. It makes it so clear. Everything becomes crystal clear. What we sing, what we chant, what we read, it becomes clear. At least part of it. Now the question is, path of bhakti. So, when we come to path of bhakti, look at Gita. Arjuna asked this question. Which is easier, bhakti or the path of the unmanifest? And Krishna says, bhakti. He says, avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhi ramapyate. The path of the unmanifest, Brahman, is difficult. For whom? For the embodied. You say, well, that rules out pretty much every one of us. He does not mean, the embodied means one with the body, because even Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Holy Mother and direct disciples, they were all with the body when they were teaching us. But embodied here means who identifies himself or herself with the body. Who are you? I am this. As long as I say that, it will be difficult for me to identify myself with the witness, pure consciousness, with Brahman. So, to say I am Brahman, there would be wrong. Why? I go back to the first class which we had here. The Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. To understand that, first one must understand I. To understand the I, we had all these classes. This book. Who am I? Drg Drsya Viveka. We go back to the real I. That real I is Brahman. Not this individual I. That real I, limited by body and mind, becomes individual I. Without the limitation of body and mind, the witness of the body and mind is Brahman. So, the path of bhakti, Krishna says, is easy for those who are identified with the body. And it leads to the same goal. It leads to the same goal. We worship Saguna Brahman, Brahman, Nirguna Brahman plus Maya, Saguna Brahman. Ishvara, Bhagavan. And that's not imagination. Only thing is, Bhagavan, you have to start and you have to take it on faith. That there is a power which has created this universe, which has created me, and which can save me. You believe in that. So that's the path of bhakti. If you combine the yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga. They are mutually supporting. For me, my faith is not shaky because it is grounded in this. I know Brahman exists as much as I know that I exist. I often give this example. In Haridwar, somebody asked the Swami, Ishwar ke astitva mein akatya praman dijiye. Gave me an irrefutable proof of the existence of God. An irrefutable proof of the existence of God. And the Swami replied, Aapka apna astitva, your own existence. We do not doubt our own existence. We never ask for a proof. Give me proof that I exist. Nobody has ever asked this. Even Descartes, who set out to doubt everything, ended up by not doubting his own existence. I exist because I think. I think, therefore I exist. The cogito.
But it's the opposite true.
Yes.
I am, therefore I think.
The Advaitin will say that. The non-dualist. But that's pretty close. That's pretty close.
I still don't get it, Swami, how we can know the witness and the witness is unknowable. It has to be through the mind. Maybe we use Ramakrishna, we use various devices, but still we know that in and through the mind.
Yes. If you want to know the witness, become aware of the witness. What you are saying, when you know the witness, you already assume the mind.
You already
assume the mind. You have assumed the mind. Assume the mind. That I must know it in the mind. And the only way you can know it in the mind is through a reflection.
Correct. Yeah.
Reflection.
You say, how can I see my original face? You cannot. The answer, number one. But that does not mean your face doesn't exist. It only means if you need to see, if you at all want to see your face, you need a mirror.
That's as far as we can go then.
Yeah. And that's great. Because if you were actually able to see your face, then your face is not your face. It's an object.
Right.
If you actually were able to see the witness, you have made the witness into an object.
I keep thinking Ramakrishna said there's no difference between pure mind and not mind.
Yes. Pure mind, removed, with ignorance removed from the mind. After all, what is the mind or the body or even the world, even this table? What is it actually? It's nothing but Asti Vadi Priyam. It is the Atman itself. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Yeah. Alright, so the path of bhakti is definitely easier. And our path, we have no problems. You see, Swami Vivekananda recommended to us the harmony of the four yogas. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, Raja Yoga. Swami Premeshananda writes a nice note. Yoga Vigna. Vigna means obstacles in the path of yoga. We were just reading it in the Hollywood monastery a few days ago. The monks get together and read. So, the obstacles in the path of yoga. Each yoga, if you read that, you'll stop practicing all the yogas. What are the problems that could come in the yogas? Path of Jnana Yoga, this one. He writes, often it degenerates into a kind of dry intellectualism. I have read this book, I have attended that retreat, and finished that class, I have memorized these shlokas. That is not Jnana Yoga. That is the material, the raw material. But has it become knowledge? Has it helped you in life? Is it a living reality for you? So it becomes a kind of dry intellectualism. Then the second obstacle he mentions, 2 or 3 or 4 obstacles he mentioned. Argumentation. That I want to win the argument. And winning the argument, I feel I'm a great Jnana Yoga. I've understood it if I can defeat somebody else in argumentation. Often it's limited to arguing and understanding. Understanding is good, but understanding is not enough. Understanding is still in the head. It should become a living reality for us. It is a living reality, we need to recognize it. And the obstacles of Raja Yoga, meditation, it often becomes a selfish path. My peace of mind, my routine, my meditation in the morning, my meditation in the evening. Nobody should disturb me. No matter if the man next door is starving, I don't care. That's what happened in India. It's his karma. I remember in a monastery in the Haridwar, I'd gone to a traditional monastery, I was staying there overnight. And the man, this monk, visiting monk next door, I was also visiting monk and he's also visiting monk. He was sick, he couldn't go for food at night. So I went out and I saw some of the scholars who were studying, young scholars who were studying in that ashram in Haridwar, in Rishikesh. I said to them, here is this person who's sick and can we get some food for him? They were least bothered. It's their place, we are guests. I said, yeah, I can go and look, see there if there's any food. So I went and got some food for that person. But you see, that kind of me, it's my liberation I'm after. I don't care about anybody else. Ultimately that doesn't work. The very selfishness becomes a barrier on the path of liberation. A private spirituality you soon see is not very spiritual at all. A private spirituality. I will be spiritual in my own cave. It can take you a little far, but not very far. Very soon that selfishness alone, so that selfishness roots you to this body and mind. How will you expand out into infinity? Alright, so Raja Yoga, that's one problem. Another problem is often because it's internal, like you have no test of your progress. You may seem to have progress. My mind is very calm. Somebody said everybody is an enlightened soul when he's sitting in meditation. The real test is when he comes out of meditation and interacts with society. How often does he lose his temper? How irritable is he? I knew of at least one monk who would meditate and come up after meditation. Immediately after meditation would start hurling abuses. Irritability actually may increase. When you are forcing the mind to do something which it does not like, the reaction is felt out after that. The mind, like a sullen child, it hits out. Meditation. And in successful cases of meditation also, there may be what they call siddhais, spiritual powers which are developed. And a person becomes attracted to those and not to real spiritual progress. That's an obstacle. Big obstacle. Path of Bhakti Yoga. Sentimentality. Hear a talk, listen to a song and tears come to my eyes. Tears coming to your eyes are good. But that's all that spirituality is. Outside that I am the same selfish busybody that I was. That is sentimentality. It's not love of God. We are emotional creatures. It's very easy to provoke emotions. You know, to make a person sing and dance and they feel it's an upsurge. But that's not real progress. Second, an attachment. Even things like, fear. I've heard people saying, this happens in Hinduism where you have a wide array of gods and goddesses. Well, I have at least 2 or 3 persons they have said to me, I have all these deities in my puja room and if I cannot offer puja to all of them, will it be bad for me? Yeah, actually you begin to feel that.
Yeah.
No, it will not be bad for you. Why should God be worried about your puja? Your puja is your business. Worship the deity in one form and of course respect everything else. And many other things. Fanaticism is closely linked to development of emotions, misdevelopment of emotions. There is a huge problem in world religions throughout the world today. Fanaticism. Major problem today. It's the downside of bhakti. Of bhakti. Of course, fanatics are not real bhaktas. Love your own God and hate others, it soon becomes, love of God becomes smaller and smaller and diminishes altogether. The hate becomes important. That's fanaticism. All fanatics you will see, they are very up and doing when it comes to criticizing and hating others. They are not very spiritual people. So fanaticism can be a problem. And a general worldliness. You see in bhakti, rituals, festivals, food. Premishanji mentions that. Bhogra. More and more, preparing dishes for the Lord. The Lord is not going to eat. He is very calorie conscious. It's we who are going to eat. So he mentions these things. Karma Yoga. He says the problems are manifold. One thing is, in Karma Yoga you get immediate success. Karma Yoga is basically doing unselfish work to please the Lord. The moment you start a school or a hospital, very soon society admires you. People are grateful to you. You get good press. People call you out to talk about your experiences, NGO, you start an NGO. And all that is good. What's wrong with it, you say that? Nothing wrong with it. But your original goal was Karma Yoga to attain God. That is gone. Clear, Bible is clear. They shall have their reward. Those who do good works in secret, your Lord will reward you openly. And those who do good works to show others, they will have their reward. What they wanted, they will get. They will not get God. That's one problem of Karma Yoga. And many other problems, like where it leads to extrovertedness. Extroverted, outward tendency, flowing out into the world. That person who was a good yogi earlier, now he has started a school. No time for meditation anymore. Busy. What are you doing? I'm doing good work for the world, serving the Lord. But at the cost of meditation, at the cost of scriptural study, at the cost of prayer. And it's easy to deceive oneself because the work is good after all. People are being helped, so why not? So that's another way that Maya plays. Engages you in good works. I knew this Swami was an extremely hard worker. One of the most energetic persons I've seen. The thing is, when he would sit down, he would immediately fall asleep. But when he was up and doing, he would go from early morning till late in the night, and huge amounts of work. But you see, that becomes an addiction, workaholic. Good work, but workaholic. No time for meditation, prayer. And so, these things are there. The defects of each yoga. Swami Vivekananda therefore recommends, he says, each of them will balance the other out. You meditate, but also you have to work for the welfare of the world. You work for the welfare of the world, but morning and evening you have to shut down your project of saving the world and sit down and meditate on God. No matter how urgent it is. Cultivate jnana. You are pursuing truth. The name of God is truth. Sat means reality. Sat also means truth. What is real here? Who am I really? Who is God really? Jnana yoga, pursue it. And devotion. Don't be a dry jnani. Love God and love God in all beings. So it's a beautiful thing. We have all these capacities. We have the cognitive capacity to understand. We have the affective domain, emotions, to love. And we have the cognitive capacity, the will, to transform our ideas into action. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, we have these powers. Why not use all of them? You may have likes and dislikes, predispositions. And that's alright. You may be primarily a jnana yogi, but there should be an element of karma, bhakti and dhyana in your life. You may be primarily a bhakta, but there should be an element of jnana and dhyana and karma in your life. You may be primarily interested in good works, karma yogi, but spend some time for a little bit of ritual and devotion, morning and evening. Spend some time in quiet contemplation and read Gita, Upanishad, Vedanta texts to understand what's going on here. So the harmony of four yogas, Swami Vivekananda says, you can manifest the divinity within, that's the goal of religion. He says you can do it by love, bhakti. You can do it by psychic control, meditation. You can do it by philosophy, jnana yoga. Or you can do it by work, karma yoga. By one or more or all of these and be free. That is the goal of religion. Books, temples, doctrines and churches are secondary details. Famous quotation. Alright, let's just go on a little bit more. 30th verse. Deha bhimane galite Deha bhimane galite Vijñāte paramatmani Vijñāte paramatmani Yatra yatra mano yati Yatra yatra mano yati Tatra tatra samadhayaha Tatra tatra samadhayaha. As you keep on practicing those 6 samadhis, as time goes, you practice those 6 samadhis, internally and externally. What will happen? Identification with the body will drop off. You will no longer think, the body, you will still be aware of the body, still be aware of the mind. You will no longer think that I am this. The wave will more and more identify itself, the wave will more and more identify itself with water, not with that particular form. Deha abhimane galite. Now it seems to be fantastic. This body is my reality. Will at such a time ever come when I will feel I am a witness to this body? Yes, it will come. It has come in the lives of great sadhakas. So, Deha abhimane galite, as identification with the body dissolves away, Vijñāte paramatmani, as the knowledge of Paramatman, the ultimate reality, Satchidananda, becomes brighter. Where? Outside? Inside? Open your eyes, see God. Close your eyes, see God. Sri Ramakrishna says, Bengali, Chok banda korle tini asen, chok khulle tini nahi. God exists when I close my eyes, and He does not exist when I open my eyes. What kind of God would that be? Outside and inside, you realize God. Then what will happen? Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadhaya. Wherever the mind goes means whatever the mind thinks about, you will find God there. Tatra tatra samadhaya, there itself you will get samadhi. Let the mind think of anything, you will find God there. Obviously, those 6 techniques are you using the mind, any thought to reflect back upon consciousness and see. Or any object outside, you see the isness there. Now what will happen? That's a very philosophical way of putting it. But you see in Sri Ramakrishna's life, anything and everything was enough to set him off into samadhi. The good, the bad and the ugly. You find God in everything. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhaya. Whatever the mind thinks of, there itself in that thought it will get samadhi. The thought is not important. The fact is, it is the witness, same consciousness which is the witness of that thought. The object is not important. It is the same isness, pure existence upon which the object is superimposed. Then what happens? When you reach this state, what will happen then? 31. This is practically the conclusion of the text. 31. This is a direct quotation from Mundaka Upanishad. Vidyate hridaya granthi Vidyate hridaya granthi Chidyante sarva samshaya Chidyante sarva samshaya Kshiyante chasya karmani Kshiyante chasya karmani Tasmin drishte paravare Tasmin drishte paravare. You will realize yourself to be Brahman. Vidyate hridaya granthi. The knot of ignorance. Remember, what is the relationship between the I and the Sakshi? The pure consciousness and the I. No relationship. Error. That relationship, the relationship born of error, vidyate, it is cut. Cut by what? By what instrument? By what weapon? By the weapon, the instrument of knowledge. Vidyate hridaya granthi. It's like open heart surgery. Hridaya granthi, knots of the heart are cut asunder. That means that which ties you, that means that which ties the I to the pure consciousness, making the pure consciousness think that it is I. The I is separated from the pure consciousness. The I will still be there. It shines in the light of you, the pure consciousness. The I is the ego. You realize you are not the ego. You will be free of yourself. The little I will never be free. The pure consciousness, the real I, realizes its own freedom. Bhidyate hridaya kranti. That connection is severed. That connection which never was is severed.
This is wonderful, Maharaj. What you just said. You will be free. You will be free of yourself.
You will be free of yourself.
What does paravai mean?
I am coming. Bhidyate hridaya kranti. And then chidyante sarva samshaya. All doubts are resolved, cut. That person gets a confidence which is unmatched in the world. Whatever you may tell that person, religion, science, skepticism, doubt, or whatever may happen to that person, disease, dishonor, death, the fact that one consciousness alone which he is shining through always, he cannot deny it. It's like the sun shining in your eyes. How can you deny it? Chidyante sarva samshaya. Every experience of life speaks to him of God. How can he do it? It's the greatest fact of that person's life. So how can that person deny God? Chidyante sarva samshaya. All doubts are cut asunder. Sri Ramakrishna, when Swami Vivekananda would say that, oh, these are delusions. You, Monero Prachaptil, you put too much pressure on the mind and you can see all sorts of things. And Sri Ramakrishna would say, Dekhije, kotha koije, I see the Divine Mother. She talks to me. And Naren would say, oh, Rokamai, that happens. Delusions. Yes.
Well, just going back to what you said the pure mind is the Atman.
Yes. Why not?
Why not?
Table, chair, all these, are these not the Atman also? Of course, there, Sri Ramakrishna, he didn't say the pure table is Atman. Pure mind is Atman. What he means is, we realize the Atman in the mind. After all realization takes place in the mind. And the mind cleared of 3 impurities. If you want further details, we talk about it. 3 impurities. What are the 3 impurities? We talked about it. The 3 levels of sadhana, the hierarchy. The hierarchy. What were the, remember the 3 problems? It will be in your notes. First problem was impurity of the mind. But what kind of impurity? Desire. Vasanas, impressions of past karmas, desires. The second was scatteredness. What did we say? Restlessness. Restless. Mind is restless. And the final one was ignorance, right? What kind of ignorance? Ignorance of Brahman or of the self. Not ignorance of physics, chemistry or mathematics. That can be settled by going to university.
Yeah.
But this is ignorance about yourself. Now imagine, or let's reclassify these 3 problems as impurities. These are 3 kinds of impurities. And where are these impurities? All of them are in the mind. Isn't it? Desires are in the mind is restless, and ignorance about the self is in the mind. After all, where would ignorance about the self be? Not in the body, not in the self, it's in the mind. And when these 3 are removed, when these 3 are cleansed, this one by karma yoga, this one by meditation and bhakti, and this one by jnana yoga, then you have a pure mind. And that's where Atman is released, is realized. That's where Atman is realized. I am Brahman, that's where it's realized. And in a more general sense, of course the pure mind is Brahman because everything is Brahman. In that sense, in a more straightforward sense. But Sri Ramakrishna in the sentence was, the pure Atman, pure mind, And one more thing he said. Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma, Shuddha Mon are one and the same. Pure intellect, pure mind and pure Atman are the same. Something like that.
Another reason for the 4 yogas.
Yeah. Now let me finish this. Chidyante sarva samshaya, shiyante chasya karmani. This is where the whole Hindu idea of there will be no rebirth for this person. All our birth and death are due to our accumulated karma. And we cannot work out our karma and get liberation. No. In the very process of working out karma, we accumulate more karma. Good or bad. Only by self-knowledge. They say, not the fire of knowledge burns up all karma. And there will be no more birth or death for that person. In fact, one of the characteristics of a Brahmajnani, liberated soul, is that the subtle body does not transmigrate. When the physical body dies, the subtle body does not leave the physical body to go to other locus. In the case of the rest of us, those who are, if a person is ignorant, not yet liberated, not yet enlightened, when this body dies, I, the jiva, the limited individual with my subtle body, I will leave this body, the dead body, and go to another body. That's rebirth, punarjanma. That will not happen. That happens to me because I have got karma. And it's arranged by God, because I must get the results of my karma. But all karmas are destroyed for the liberated soul, for the enlightened soul. All karmas. Kshiyante jasya karmani. All karmas are destroyed for it. There will be no more birth, no more death. And then, tasmin drishte paravari. When does this happen? When you have realized Brahman, which is transcendent and immanent. That Brahman, which is Nirguna Nirakara Brahman, you have realized that Aham Brahmasmi. And also, you realize Brahman everywhere. Everything is Brahman. Not just apart from the world itself is a play of Brahman. The transcendent and the immanent, both are realized. Same Brahman is realized to be transcendent and immanent. Basically, when you realize, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. It's a direct quotation from Mundaka Upanishad. And he gives, Nikhilananji has given in the notes, number of quotations which shows this. Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati, the next page. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Becomes Brahman is just language. It just means he is Brahman, always was. Brahma Vidapnoti Param, the knower of Brahman attains the highest. Tarati Shokam Atmavid, the knower of the Atman crosses over all sorrow, and so on. So many quotations are there. Now the next part of it, the bulk of the text is over now. What has to be said has been said. There are 15 verses remaining, which is like a bonus, an add-on. I'll give you an outline tomorrow. So if there are any more questions now, I can take them. Yes.
All right, I'm not sure how to practice this kind of thing with my own practices, or existing practices. How do you fit it all in? What is the approach?
You don't have to.
Okay. But if
primary, remember, again I'll repeat, the primary emphasis should always be on what the Guru has taught.
Yeah.
Whatever name we have repeated, whatever little sadhana we have done, among the results of that sadhana, one of the things is what we are getting, this Vedanta and everything. Ishvara anugraha deva punsam advaita vasana. By the very grace of God, one gets a desire to learn these things. Don't abandon that, that's the root. Don't fiddle with it also. I have learned something nice now, let me tinker with it. My Guru was nice, but he was outdated. This Swami is a 21st century Swami. He has got some latest stuff. Let me add it and upgrade. Let me upgrading. Let me upgrade my practice. Like we had Windows 2000, Windows XP and so on. So let me have Mantra 2016. Something like that. Never do that.
Thank you.
That transmission, this is a teaching.
Right.
With a text, a teacher and students, we are learning.
Yeah.
That is something of a much higher grade. It's a mystical transmission from an unbroken line of gurus. If you have taken initiation from someone in the Ramakrishna order. And many of you have taken initiation from some of the great Swamis who were here in the past. They were disciples of direct disciples. The direct disciples were disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Avatara. And through him flows many, many traditions of Hinduism, if not all traditions of Hinduism. Things which he had realized himself. These are awakened mantras transmitted through a line of enlightened gurus. That is far higher than reading something in a classroom. So don't meddle with that. That will be disastrous. Even if you don't do anything with this, I hope you will do something with this. You will take away at least the 2 verses, 1 and 20. And I hope you will read it. I hope you will read this again. I hope you will think about it. I hope you will practice some of this to see, get an insight to see what it feels like. But all secondary.
Okay.
That's number 1.
Okay.
I'm coming to you. And one more thing I wanted to say was that, Schopenhauer, the great German philosopher, he had a way with words. He put it so nicely. He said, a weak mind is like a soft pillow. A soft pillow retains the impression of the backside of the last person who sat on it. And a weak mind is easily persuaded by the last book it read. Yes. Sri Ramakrishna would say, Lajamudo Baddiyenyo. He would say, it's like there's a fish eating Bengali. So you remove the head of the fish and the tail of the fish and you take what's there in between. In the same way, what is given here is from the text. Now take what you can. Yes. You don't have to take all of it, you don't have to throw away all of it. Whatever appeals to you, whatever is good for you at your stage in spiritual evolution, take it, it will help you.
That's what Sri Krishna said last shloka in Bhagavad
Yadichasi tat kuru.
Last shloka in Bhagavad Gita.
Last shloka in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, I have said what I wanted to do, now you know. Now you are free. He doesn't say do it, he says now you are free to do what you want.
Whether you should follow what I said, it is up to you.
Right.
Yes.
Or take what you could digest.
Yes.
Would it be fair to assume that Vidyaranya who wrote this thing, he was a realized soul?
Oh yes, I think
Must
so.
be.
Must be.
Otherwise, you couldn't write something like that.
Yes, yes. If you look at Panchadashi, remarkable. Not only a realized soul, also a very creative soul. Because he comes up with new ways of presenting things which are not there in any other place. Same truth, he can present it with a new twist. In the 15 chapters of Panchadashi, I was just thinking, right now it's just, you have to edit it out of that recording. Loud thinking. I can have actually 15 different courses on the Panchadashi. Like we had a retreat now. Each of those chapters can serve as a basis for a retreat. And they're so powerful. I'm sure he was an enlightened soul, but who knows? What can one say? Wonderful. Questions? You can take 1 or 2 more questions. Yes.
I'm still struggling with one aspect of the idea that how can you create an infinite result with a finite means?
Yes.
That phrase still rings through me as part of my doubt.
Yes.
What can be achieved in the Drg Drsya?
Yes. How can you create an infinite result with a finite effort? That's your question?
Yes.
Those are the words. Infinite
Yes.
result from a finite
Means.
means. Right. This is the question. Perfect. And the answer is, of course, it's an old question in non-dual philosophy. What he's saying is, if I understand correctly, let me say this. Action. Okay. He has used the word means. Let me use the word cause. Is that all right? Cause. Because cause and effect we understand. Cause, effect. Right? Now, a finite cause will always give a finite effect. We can think of an infinite cause giving an infinite effect. But what he's talking about here is, if I understand correctly, you are talking about moksha, eternal freedom. You are infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. Just by the finite effort of trying to understand and cultivate this Drg Drsya Viveka. 3-day seminar retreat, and then if you practice it a little bit, then you'll be free forever, infinitely free. A limited effort giving rise to an infinite effect. Is that what you're asking? This is the argument used in Hinduism, in Vedanta, to argue against eternal heaven and eternal hell. Because heaven is caused by merit. You do good, the result is merit, and the result of that merit will be sukha or happiness. Sukha means happiness. Do bad, there will be demerit and dukkha, misery. Do a lot of good, lot of merit, lot of sukha, you go to heaven. Lot of bad, lot of demerit, unfortunately you have to go to hell, dukkha. To get that kind of dukkha can't be arranged in this world. It has to be arranged in a special place. Hell. But neither of these can be eternal because they are firmly inside the law of karma, causation. Whatever good you do, it can't be infinite. It's impossible for limited beings to do infinite good. So the result will be a limited amount of merit and a limited amount of sukha. So even if one goes to heaven, one will have to come back one day. So all the heavens in Hinduism are limited heavens. That means they come to an end. You come back to this world again. And equally, a limited being like us cannot do an infinite amount of bad, luckily. So the limited amount of demerit and limited amount of dukkha. It may be a lot of dukkha, but still it will come to an end someday. So maybe even Hitler will come out of hell one day.
I was just thinking of that.
A reformed
I was
person.
just thinking of that.
Okay, now let me finish. I have a train of thought here. I'm answering the question. So there can be no eternal heaven, no eternal hell. That's the argument. Heaven or hell. Now, how can there be eternal freedom produced by 3 days of Drg Drsya Viveka? The answer is this. There might be a finite cause, but an infinite effect is not produced here.
It's already.
Your freedom is eternal already. The very idea that an eternal freedom can be produced. What is eternal? Beginningless, endless. Now you are saying an eternal freedom is produced. That means, in other words, an eternal freedom begins. How can a beginningless freedom begin? Eternal freedom is always there. We are free at this moment. Then what does Drg Drsya Viveka do if it does not give us freedom? It removes ignorance of that freedom. And that ignorance is a very limited thing indeed. It's finite. A finite ignorance is removed by finite knowledge. And then both are thrown away. Sri Ramakrishna puts it beautifully. You have a thorn in your flesh, take another thorn, pick out that thorn, throw both away. It's sometimes mystifying when he says, you have the thorn of ignorance, get the thorn of knowledge, pick out the thorn of ignorance and throw both away. Because if you when we read this, we feel puzzled. Remove ignorance with knowledge, we understand. But then throw away knowledge itself, then we become ignorant again. That applies to this case of spiritual freedom. Knowledge comes, removes ignorance, reveals our eternal freedom. Don't hold on to that knowledge. You see, in each case, the object is dismissed, the text, Vedantic text is dismissed, then you go into the Nirvikalpaka. You don't hold on to that. I am Satchidananda. Don't keep on thinking that. If you hold on to knowledge, you will not be liberated. Your true state as the Atman is beyond. Knowledge is in the mind. Ignorance is in the mind. Knowledge comes in the mind and removes ignorance in the mind. That knowledge is generated by this little book or by any scripture. After you become liberated or you become aware of your eternal liberation, he says, Tatra Veda Veda Bhavanti. The Vedas become no Vedas there. You go beyond the scripture. Vedanta is probably the only philosophy or religion which dares to say that the person who realizes what is said here goes beyond this. Yes.
So, what appears to this mind is a strong corollary to that is that you can't solve a problem on the same level at which it was created. I haven't worked that out. I'm just asking, what connection do you see between what Terence was saying and that statement?
You cannot solve a problem at the level which it was created. Right. So, the problem at the level of the samsara can be solved not in samsara, but by going beyond samsara or going below samsara to the ground of samsara, to the ground of existence, which is being itself. That's a different level, not this level. That's why Advaita speaks about, tomorrow I'll speak about it, it's in that additional text. Advaita speaks about 3 levels. Absolute, relative, and what you might call illusory or appearance or illusory. Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika. Illusory, our dreams. Vyavaharika, right now, this waking world. Paramarthika, Brahman. Your nightmare will really be solved when you wake up from this into the waking world. The only solution for a nightmare is to wake up. What is waking up? Leaving that level altogether and rising to a higher level. You sit up on your bed with your chest pounding and say, oh, thank God it was a dream. What happened? You experienced it, but the level you experienced it is false compared to the level you are in now. It was dreamt up. This level you are sitting in, it's not equal to the level of the dream. The tiger who was chasing you and you sit up on your bed suddenly, you don't think the tiger is in the next room. No, it was in the dream which is false compared to this level. The problem of the Vyavaharika, which we inhabit now, will be solved when we wake up into the Paramarthika. The world is false compared to Brahman, not in itself. The dream is false compared to your waking, not in itself. Dog chasing you in dream, a dream dog chasing you. You say, oh, it's a dream dog, doesn't matter, let it chase, let it bite. If it bites in the dream, it's going to hurt in the dream too. A dream dog biting you in the dream will hurt in the dream. Oh yes, it will. Dream pain, you'll get dream pain. The only way to stop that is to wake up. And even then, your chest keeps pounding for a few seconds at least. So, yes, the only way is to wake up to a new level. From here to this level.
Oh, good.
So Buddha said, I'm awake. Buddha said, I'm awake.
Yes. What is the meaning of the word Buddha? I'm fond of telling this. Houston Smith, in his book, The Religions of the World, he starts the chapter on Buddhism in such a beautiful way. He says, when the Buddha got enlightenment, then he was walking towards Sarnath to give his first sermon. And this young shepherd boy saw him and asked a question. Houston Smith says, very few people have been asked in history, what are you? Houston Smith says, many people have been asked, who are you? But very few people have been asked, what are you? So the shepherd boy saw something extraordinary in the face of this monk who was walking by. What are you? Are you a god? The Buddha said no. Are you an angel? The Buddha said no. Are you a man? The Buddha said no. Then what are you? He says, I am the awakened, I am Buddha. Meaning thereby, the rest of us are either dreaming or sleeping. You're awakened to this. In fact, the 3 relationships, the I is related to the reflected consciousness, the I is related to the body, and the I is related to the pure consciousness, the Sakshi. 3 relationships, and we read that how can these relationships be cut? The relationship of the I, the small I with the pure consciousness is based on error, is born of error. With the reflected consciousness is natural, like a mirror and reflection. And the relationship with the body is born of karma. So these relationships can be cut when? When karma is exhausted, the I loses its relationship with this body, but gets a relationship with another body maybe. And with the reflected consciousness, it is natural, it will never go. Both will, when one is there, the other will be there. But the word used, how is the relationship between the pure consciousness and the ego? False relationship, no relationship, error. How is that cut? I translated it as knowledge. But you know what the original word is in the Sanskrit? Prabodha, by waking up. I should have translated the correct again. See, verse number 9. Second line, verse number 9. Karma kshayat prabodhacha nivartete kramadubhe. Karma kshayat, by the destruction of karma, this body will die and the I, that little I, will transmigrate into a new body. And we'll call that I am that body. And what about the real thing? The I related to Atman, Brahman, pure consciousness. He says that will go prabodha, by awakening. By waking up. Prabodha is knowledge, but the precise meaning of prabodha is waking up. By waking up. By waking up to yourself, to Brahman. Any more? Okay. Thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna